Rebirth of the Celebrity Business Woman Chapter 1, Memorial. This is Tang Jingyun's second time kneeling in front of the tombstone. She felt a little funny, as if heaven made a big joke with her, barely touching the corners of her mouth, only to find that she couldn't laugh at all. Rubbing the corners of her stiff mouth, she almost forgets how to laugh after more than 10 years of time. When she was young, although her living environment was not so good and her temperament was calmer than that of ordinary children, in the end, she was a teenager with a smile and often climbed up her eyebrows, just like those carefree children. It was only afterwards that I learned about the grievances, and somehow changed from a child with an unknown father to the illegitimate daughter of a wealthy family. Her life seemed to be turned upside down overnight, and those ordinary lives were finally separated from her life. It is conceivable that a child who is still innocent and immature, living in a group of hungry wolves, how difficult her life should be. It is not an exaggeration to say that she is struggling. Later, she gradually learned all kinds of smiles, flattering, humble, vicious, indifferent, elegant, all kinds of smiles came and went in her life, and went. Come. The exquisite masks played various roles in her life and made her use all means to achieve various goals. Since when did you become unable to laugh? Probably it started when she entered the hall and took charge of the prominent family of the Tang family. Maybe it was because she had laughed too much before, which made her feel bored. When she reached her height, she no longer needed to laugh at others for a certain purpose, so she stopped laughing. Tian kept a straight face and immersed herself in the company documents. Afterwards, the habit became natural, and she would not laugh anymore. She remembered that she was in her early 30s, but there were already deep lines between her eyebrows, which was caused by her frowning all the year round. Everyone in the company, including people in the family, saw her avoid her like a scorpion. She rubbed the corners of her mouth vigorously again, trying to show a smile, but in the end she was just slumped. Some things, although there is a possibility of change over time, but some things, the imprinted marks are too strong, such as the look on her face, it is not that it can be erased by erasing it. Ha ha. The cold laughter seemed a little strange in this empty cemetery, and the sun was gradually sinking to the west, leaving a dim light on the world. Tang Jingyun looked at the cemetery in front of him. 3 tombstones were buried side by side. They looked good from a distance, like a family. Of course, there is indeed a family buried here. From left to right, her mother, grandfather, and grandma are in order. The 3 closest relatives in her life have all been buried underground, leaving her alone to face the sharp and cruel reality in silence. Her mother, Lu Ling, was the only daughter of her grandma and grandfather. After going to college, I was deceived by a scumbag. Not only could he not go to college, he dragged the box back home, and was pregnant with a child whose father was unknown. The angry grandpa fell ill on the spot, and forced her to beat her child and refused. Later, she died of dystocia during childbirth, leaving her with Tang Jingyun's name. She always felt that her mother was a stupid woman, very stupid, so stupid, how could the sweet words of a man be easily believed? Not only did she kill her, she also caused her children to bear too many things since she was a child. The grandfather was already angry by Lu Ling, but when the only daughter gave birth, her body was completely broken, and he followed after a few years, leaving her alone to pull her to grow up. Now, her grandma was also buried underground, leaving Tang Jingyun alone in this world. Speaking of it, this is the second time she kneeled in front of this tomb. The first time was when her former grandma was buried, she personally put her ashes into this tomb. Later, she never came to her death, and she couldn't come back at first. Later, I didn't want to come back. She didn't bother to entangle the complicated feelings in it. She had never wanted to touch those feelings that were constantly being cut and messed up. Whoever let the feelings were too thin, strangled her heart with throbbing pains. She reverently knocked 3 heads respectfully at the tombstone, and then barely supported her body to stand up, perhaps because she had been kneeling for too long, she felt a little dizzy, and her feet staggered. She held the tombstone and rested for a while before she felt relieved. Her face that hadn't eaten every day looked very pale. She staggered and showed a little messy footsteps, making her a little fragile. She slowly walked down the stone steps 1 step at a time. The 3 tombstones were buried in the middle of the mountain. When she reached the foot of the mountain, she looked back at the 3 tombstones standing side by side. It was a bit quiet and awe-inspiring. She rubbed her heart fiercely and murmured, "Please, don't hurt anymore." Looking back at this place again, she finally turned her head in silence and left here. This difference, I don't know how long it will take to come back to see her relatives who have been buried underground. Those who have passed away should not be mixed into the lives of those who are still alive. Those regrets in the previous life must be made up in this life, and as for the grievances of those rich and powerful, she really does not want to be contaminated again. Her steps down the mountain became more and more determined, but the thin back figure became a little more depressed under the dim light. Tang Jingyun suddenly remembered the heavy snowfall many years ago. She was already in Tang's house at that time. She silently built a snowman. After watching for a long time, she finally stretched out her finger and drew a big smile on the snowman. She stood beside the snowman with her lips pursed. It was her 20-year-old innocence. She was calm in the past, and she walked along the road without knowing it. Suddenly she frowned. When she woke up, she suddenly realized that she had deviated from the original path and silently planned to turn around and leave this place. I just paused, and I couldn't help but look around. The setting sun had set and the surroundings looked very dim. Then I found myself walking to a garbage dump at the foot of the mountain. The street lights here have been in disrepair for a long time, and only 1 or 2 old ones are still emitting. With dim lights. The surrounding exudes an unpleasant smell, the rotten things are stacked here, and it seems that no one has dealt with it for a long time. However, these smells can't hide the smell. She doesn't know why, it seems that her own facial features are much sharper than before rebirth, especially the smell of blood. With a fine smell, you can smell the smell in the air. After a few seconds of silence on the spot, she finally followed the smell in the air and found the source of the smell of blood. It is a very remote corner, hidden by cardboard and wooden shelves. It is difficult for ordinary people to find this place without looking carefully. As soon as she reached out to lift the cardboard, she felt her back waist being held by a cold metal pillar. "Do not move." A low, cold voice sounded from behind her. Tang Jingyun pursed her lips and slowly raised her hands. "Turn around, don't play any tricks. My gun is loaded, so be careful to wipe it out." The low, cold voice continued to command. Tang Jingyun turned around, and finally saw the man holding the gun against her. Under the dim light, a man with a height of about 1 meter and 9, with a waist and a back, wide shoulders and narrow buttocks, was only wearing a dark vest, black trousers and a pair of military boots. His face was expressionless. A black pistol. Tang Jingyun only felt a strong sense of oppression rushing toward her face. Just standing and holding a gun like this made people dare not look down upon it. She never put down the hand on top of her head, looked directly at the man opposite, and calmly explained, "Don't get me wrong, I just went here by mistake, and there is no purpose. If you need it, I can leave right away." The strange feeling in Jiang Ye's heart flashed away, and this young and unfamiliar visitor was a little bit beyond his expectation. This is a very good-looking woman, young, about 1.7 meters tall. The most outstanding is her pair of phoenix eyes. When you look up at him, the ends of the eyes are slightly raised, the amorous feelings are full. It stands to reason that a girl her age can't hold up the amorous feelings brought by phoenix eyes. Her face is very immature. You can tell at a glance that she is still a girl in an ivory tower, but her eyes are extremely deep. With the vicissitudes of life experienced, it is like a deep well, which makes people hard to see at a glance. Afterwards, he heard the woman's voice, which was very cold, like a mountain stream crashing against a rock. Her voice was very calm, as if she could not see the slightest panic. She had a maturity that did not match her young appearance. Jiang Yi frowned slightly, "By mistake. Then why did you go straight to where I was hiding?" Tang Jingyun explained seriously, "My sense of smell is very sensitive, I can smell blood." She suddenly realized that the smell of blood on the man's body was very strong, and when she took a closer look, through the dim light, she discovered that there was a dark color on the front of his black vest. Seeing that Jiang Ye's expression was still, he could only continue to say, "You can search, there is nothing shameful about me." Jiang Yi was silent for a few seconds and then said, "Sorry, your expression is too calm, it's not like the way you were when someone held a gun at your age. I have to doubt your identity. The corners of Tang Jingyun's mouth showed a bit of helplessness. As the head of the Tang family, she used to be calm in any situation and exchanged for benefits with sufficient reason. For a while, she forgot that she was just a very young child. When the two confronted each other, Tang Jingyun's ears moved, her eyes narrowed, and she said, "Someone is moving to this side at 200 meters in the northeast corner. The number of people is unknown." A look of surprise flashed in Jiang Ye's eyes. After half a minute, his ears moved, and he heard a small rubbing sound. Knowing that the woman in front of him was true, he whispered, go west." Rebirth of the Celebrity Business Woman Chapter 2, Late Night Racing. Tang Jingyun felt that she was really unlucky today, but just a little curiosity emerged and she was involved in a seemingly dangerous thing, but now that she has no other better way. The man was not joking. The Browning large-caliber pistol he was holding was 200 mm in length, 9 mm in diameter, and capable of 13 rounds. It was the most powerful one among Brownings, and it was obvious that the gun was loaded. As long as he gave her a shot, she was absolutely dead, and she didn't think she had the ability to escape the man's shooting. Tang Jingyun didn't want to die yet, she just came back to life, and when all this hadn't happened, she still had a lot of youth to squander, so she didn't want to lose her life inexplicably like this. Since I don't want to die, it is obvious that I can only do what this man says. The two of them hurriedly left the station. Without the dilapidated street lights of the station, the surrounding area suddenly became dark. The moonlight today is not good. Tang Jingyun suddenly felt that she had an extra hand on her waist, and her whole body was half wrapped into her arms that exuded a strong masculine smell. If it is an ordinary little girl, when encountering such a thing, it is either blushing or shy, or jumping. Get up and scold the hooligan, after all, this posture is too ambiguous. It's just that she didn't have any charming thoughts at all, because her waist was still against the big caliber Browning. Obviously, this man was afraid that she would escape through the darkness, so he simply held her in his arms. Jiang Yi felt that the woman who couldn't see the depth stiffened, and then he obeyed his movements, nodding secretly in her heart. She was indeed a girl who was aware of the times and thoughtful and smart. "Hey, you are taking advantage of me like this? The girl's waist can't be hugged casually." Tang Jingyun said softly, and there was no panic of being hijacked to escape in her tone, and her psychological quality was evident. Jiang Yi pursed his lips and kept walking. After a few seconds of silence, he said, "When you are out of danger, I can let you take it back." After that, the two of them were silent. When they were escaping for their lives, it was not suitable to talk about such things. Even Jiang Yi was a little surprised that he would answer this woman's question. The conversation between the two was just an episode in the escape. No matter how good Tang Jingyun's mentality was, she would never forget the group of chasing people behind her. Walking all the way to the west, passing through a rocky area, Tang Jingyun vaguely saw a military jeep parked on the side of the road. The body was like a silent behemoth in the dark, and her body became subconsciously stiff. "Don't worry, it's my car," the man told her softly, thinking she was worried about an ambush. Tang Jingyun just remained silent and did not speak. No one saw in the darkness, her face turned pale, like a ghost from the underworld. There were piercing brakes, loud crashes, and pedestrian screams in her ears. Then her eyes were blood red, her breastbone shattered, and her ribs were inserted into the lobe of her lungs. She felt a burst of difficulty breathing. The scene of the death in the previous life changed again in her heart. She pulled out a weak smile in the dark. "Isn't this really a pleasant memory?" The man reached her with a gun, and shouted in a low voice, "Get in the car." Tang Jingyun quickly got into the position of the co-pilot. When she got in the car, the memory in her head was more obvious. She felt a little short of breath, which is probably a sequelae of her death after a car accident. After Jiang Yi started the car drove out low. Tang Jingyun is familiar with this road. This is an abandoned provincial road. It used to be traffic-rich, but a more convenient road was built later. In addition, it has been in disrepair for a long time and has potholes. Few people will drive here. Now there is no car in the night. As the car drove past a cemetery, Tang Jingyun suddenly felt shocked, and shouted in a low voice, "Danger!" Jiang Yi also discovered the situation at this time. Two black cars shuttled from the darkness and rammed into the car he was in. His lips were slightly pursed, his two sword eyebrows were sharply raised, and the steering wheel in his hand was spinning wildly. Stepping on the accelerator and holding on, the car suddenly rushed out. Even so, it was still hit the rear by one of the cars. Squeak wow! The tires of the military jeep rubbed on the bumpy and abandoned provincial road and made a harsh, piercing sound, and the car slid off the road in a whirlpool. Jiang Ye's complexion was as usual. He quickly turned the steering wheel in his hands, adjusted his direction, and when he stepped on the accelerator, the code speed soared to 200, and the car jumped out. The two behind him were chasing after him and biting his back fiercely all the time. At this time, Jiang Ye's heart was also a little irritable. He was really a bunch of mad dogs who did not live or die. Boom! A sharp sound exploded on the car window. Tang Jingyun's eyes narrowed, and she was no stranger to this sound, gunshots. At this time, she was absolutely sure that she was involved in a certain murder. She didn't know what the man next to her did. She wanted them to be intercepted halfway, and even took out the extremely strict firearms of the Heavenly Dynasty. Suddenly, she saw the man next to her holding the steering wheel in one hand, and taking out the Browning large-caliber pistol from her waist with the other hand, swiftly leaning out of the car window, and firing a shot at the car behind her. Through the rearview mirror, Tang Jingyun saw the car behind him tilting toward the side of the road, but obviously not completely out of control. She couldn't help frowning, and looking sideways. The man beside her was as steady as a rock, holding the steering wheel tightly in his hands. The veins are exposed, and the muscles on the exposed arm are arched, showing a perfect line. He made a decision silently in his heart, and said to the man beside him, "Let's change it." Jiang Yi understood her meaning as soon as he turned in his heart, and gave a surprised look to the woman next to him. Since she got in the car, he has been observing silently. He is very honest and calm, and his face is pale and shocking. Such an amazing sentence. He knew that this was the best choice right now, but, could he put his life on this woman of unknown origin? There was silence for a few seconds. Okay. The two quickly pushed the car door and jumped out at the same time, and exchanged their positions within a few breaths. Tang Jingyun felt the familiar feeling under her feet, even though the suffocation in her chest still lingered. A bit of excitement still rose in her heart, and she couldn't help licking her lips. Jiang Yi watched in surprise at the young woman maneuvering the car skillfully. The steering wheel of the Jeep, which is heavier than ordinary cars, was very flexible in her hands. His eyes squinted. This girl is very interesting. No one knows that Tang Jingyun in her previous life was a racing biker. Under the heavy work pressure, she often had trouble sleeping. Motor racing became a way for her to vent her pressure in her previous life. In fact, she is crazy about this aspect, but few people know that she is the superior and unpopular Tang family in power. The accelerator pedal was stepped on, the yardage quickly began to soar, and the car was driven by her. Jiang Yi quickly put aside the surprise in his heart and concentrated on dealing with the car chasing behind. Bang, bang. Shooting two shots at the car behind, Jiang Yi provoked a murderous smile at the corner of his mouth, and saw that the high-speed car suddenly lost control, hit the roadside guardrail, and plunged into the wild. The two shots just blasted the tires of a car and suddenly lost control during high-speed driving, which was enough for them. Then the other car was solved according to this method. The two looked at each other and smiled. They both breathed a sigh of relief, as if they had cultivated a tacit understanding without saying a word. At this moment, Tang Jingyun's sensitive hearing heard the roar of the motor again, and her face changed suddenly. There is no end. He slammed the steering wheel in his hand and turned to another road very quickly. Jiang Yi quickly spotted another car chasing from behind the body. Knowing the reason for this woman's reaction, his brows were frowned. It was really a passing year. The chasing car behind him changed a lot, but the purpose was still the same. Tang Jingyun glanced at the man with the old beside her. She moved extremely fast and put the already extremely fast speed into a gear again. She gritted her teeth and asked, "How many people have you offended? Come on." Jiang Yi wiped the gun in his hand, looked up at her, and said faintly, "It's nothing more than the tiger fell in the sun. I missed this opportunity, and the chance of wanting to kill me in the future will be much less." Tang Jingyun listened to the man's indifferent tone, and wanted to make a complaint. "Don't you know how to bring more people out when you know the danger? I deeply feel that I'm on a thief ship this time. I saw the boundary in front of me. I quickly changed gears and steered. As soon as the front of the car turned, it drove to another intersection. There are many exits on this abandoned provincial road, and various intersections. It is difficult for people who are unfamiliar to know, and she is fortunate to know some, and has not forgotten." The people in the 3 cars that followed, among them the black-clothed man sitting in the driving position, took a sip, a little annoyed and said, "This kid is obviously injured, why is he still so slippery? Slippery like a loach." Thinking of the reward given by the boss, he gritted his teeth and stretched his yards. "Starve to death the timid, hold the courageous to death. MD, Heisey, get ready, let's fight." The man next to him took out a gun from his waist and loaded it. Tang Jingyun drove the car intensively. At this time, her yardage had soared to 250 yards. Suddenly, there was an excitement all over her body, a feeling of danger filled her heart, the cold hair on her body exploded in an instant, and she stepped on the accelerator under her feet, directly braking through 300 yards. Just as she speeded up, a bang sound came. Hiss, Tang Jingyun couldn't help but gasped out. It's dangerous. If someone blows a tire, he will definitely rush out of the guardrail at such a speed and hit him to death on the side of the road. Jiang Yi frowned, a cold light flashed in his eyes, half of his body leaned out, 2 bang and bang shots at the back, followed by 3 more shots, and the 2 cars behind flew without a doubt. Going out, the collision is completely unrecognizable, and the people inside are naturally unlucky. Tang Jingyun saw all this in the rearview mirror. When the 2 cars rolled out, they made a great roar and braking noise. Her brows did not move, but she looked at the road ahead indifferently. When Jiang Yi drew back, he caught the woman driving the woman's eyes. He was so indifferent that he didn't even know what he was doing. The sharp sound of the car crashing behind seemed to not bother her at all. He couldn't help it. Moved. Rebirth of the Celebrity Business Woman Chapter 3, Night Talk. When the 2 cars turned over and fell to the ground, they glided on the ground for a long time, but they also blocked most of the road, and the vehicles behind them could not pass. Seeing that there were no more chasing cars behind, it was only then that Tang Jingyun really relieved, "It's dangerous." Jiang Yi nodded, and his expressionless face was obviously relieved. "You are good at driving." "Thank you, as long as you let me stay alive, I don't need to say anything else." Tang Jingyun said lightly, her hands kept moving, shifting gears, slowing down, and turning. A beautiful drift past a turn. The corners of Jiang Ye's mouth moved, and he felt dizzy at this time. The consequences of excessive blood loss began to reflect on him, and he said, "Hey, I seem to be a little dizzy." Squeak, crush. The military jeep slammed the brakes. Tang Jingyun stopped the car, the smell of blood in the nose became more and more intense. She pulled away the dark vest on the man's body, and through the lights in the car, she saw a gun on his left rib. The injury was just treated by people to stop the bleeding at will, probably because of the big action just now, and now it starts to bleed again. She frowned, and she could tell from his tone that this man has a pretty good background. If he were to die in front of him today, her troubles would be inevitable in the future. She immediately said coldly, "Hold on, I will take you go find someone to treat the injury." Jiang Yi moved his lips and wanted to tell her that it was best not to go to a regular hospital, otherwise there would be trouble, and eventually he did not speak. Tang Jingyun immediately recognized the direction, followed the road and drove on a familiar road. He drove extremely fast, soaring to 200 yards. After driving for more than half an hour, he entered the Inland Market and drove a dozen more minutes. I stopped at an old-looking street corner and glanced at the pale-faced man beside him. "Did you die? Get out of the car if you don't die." Jiang Yi has no strength to talk to this woman, and he feels that if he stops the bleeding, he will really be finished. Although Tang Jingyun spoke coldly, she got out of the car and walked to another door, helped the man out of the car, and moved him into the old street step by step. Then he passed through several intricate alleys before reaching his destination. The facade in front of me was almost new, but there was an old sign, which was awkwardly hung there, and the gilding on it had been polished so that the specific words could hardly be seen. Boom! Tang Jingyun kicked open the concealed door, and asked in her mouth, "Old Chui, where are people dead? Come out quickly." "Oh, who is kicking my facade again? This is how you ruined Lao Tzu's facade." A lazy voice came from the back hall. The visitor was a middle-aged man in his 30s and 40s. His hair was messy, his collar was turned upside down, and he looked sloppy. It was just that he had a pair of very clean and well-groomed hands comparable to a pianist. Seeing Tang Jingyun, one frozen, "Oh, isn't this Miss Tang? I haven't seen you for a long time." Then I saw the man leaning on her, frowning, "Miss Tang, you see, I have the rules here, not to deliver babies. Stop talking nonsense, if you don't save him, we will both be dead another day." Tang Jingyun interrupted him, "If you don't want to die, hurry up." Old Chui nodded when he saw Tang Jingyun's expression serious, not as if he was pretending, and he helped the man to perform the operation behind him. Although Tang Jingyun is not a frequent visitor here, she has a good relationship with him. She comes over for a drink and chats from time to time, so he has a little tolerance and trust in her. Tang Jingyun stayed in place for a while, and then went out. The military jeep parked on the street was too conspicuous. It was quiet at night and there weren't too many people to notice, but it was troublesome during the day, so I found a convenient place. Put it. It took a few hours before she came back again. At this time, Lao Chui had completed the operation and was sitting in the shop drinking a little wine. Seeing her, there was a bit of hesitation in his eyes, and he said, "Miss Tang, let me tell you, what is the origin of this man? When I was operating on him just now, I found that he was wearing this on his waist." He held a gun in his hand. In this land of China, people with guns are not simple. They are either high-ranking people or extremely wicked people. Tang Jingyun smiled bitterly, "Old Chui, I just went to worship in the cemetery. I didn't expect it to be involved. I don't even know the specifics." She took out a box of cigarettes from her pocket, handed one to Lao Chui, and then took another one herself, lit it, took a deep breath, and said, "Don't worry, I won't involve you." On the body. He patted his shoulder as he said. Old Chui shook his head and sighed, "It's okay, we are in our business to take risks." This Tang family girl, he also watched to grow up since childhood. Life is not good, no father, dead mother, grandfather died as she remembered, and her grandma was left alone to drag her to grow up. He knew her grandma, a traditional woman who didn't know a big character, was a bit mean and sharp. Perhaps it was because Tang Jingyun's appearance had killed her daughter. She was not very good to her, at most, she was given a bowl of rice. "Leave a room so that you won't starve to death and freeze to death." Tang's girl was raised as a boy since she was a child. I remembered that when she came for the first time, she was still small, she looked a little malnourished, and her face was bruised. He thought it was a skin boy from which family, but later heard with only a few words from others, I knew that it was the girl from the Tang family who was fighting outside the school. As she grew up, this girl no longer had bruises on her face like she did when she was a child, but she grew more and more protruding. Her appearance was the best, but she came here frequently, often with alcohol and tobacco. Or a few home-cooked dishes, come to him for a meal. He could see that this girl was not happy, but he couldn't comfort her. Every family had hard-to-read scriptures, so he could drink 2 cups with this little girl at most. It wasn't until I was admitted to the Yen University in Kyoto last year and went to study there that the exchanges gradually ended. "Miss Tang." Tang Jingyun waved her hand, "Old Chui, when did you and me become so unfamiliar? Is it impossible to dislike me?" Old Chui laughed, "Isn't it because you have become an educator?" Seeing the disapproval on her face, she raised her wine glass, "I'm not good, I'll punish myself for a glass." Tang Jingyun was very familiar with finding a cup in the room, poured a glass of wine by herself, sat down opposite to Lao Chui, took a puff of the cigarette in her hand. "It's been a long time since I came back." Old Chui looked at her posture and shook his head and sighed, "Tang girl, you really don't smoke and drink like you used to be, you don't look like a girl, be careful not to marry in the future." Tang Jingyun was holding the cigarette in her hand, and her expression was a little indifferent through the smoke. I have been dealing with you people who are very educated since I was a child. Naturally, I have become infected with these habits. In the future, my man can endure the best. If I can't bear it, I won't marry. No one rushes me anyway. She lived in her previous life to more than 30, and no one persuaded her to get married. Perhaps more people wished that she would not marry, and there would be no heirs to inherit the family wealth in the future. In the end, she would return to the Tang family. Old Chui thought she thought of a lonely person, shook her head and smiled, and changed the subject. Well, let's not mention whether there are any of these, don't worry about such a big beauty like Tang girl. Then he asked again. The man in the room looks uncomfortable. There is a bullet embedded in his body, and there is a stray bullet scratch on his shoulder. It is estimated that it will not be short for a long time, and he can still maintain a clear consciousness. It's really not easy. You know old Chui. I grew up in this circle. This man gave me a wolf-like feeling at first sight. I think if I didn't compromise, he would really kill me in one shot. Tang Jingyun took a bit of a cigarette. What a trouble. Old Chui patted her on the shoulder. It's okay. Our underground world in Yinlin City is not a joke. After all, we must abide by the rules. Don't worry too much. I know, come, let's have a good drink today. Tang Jingyun raised her glass, touched Lao Chui, and took a sip. The spicy taste stimulated her nerves. It's really been a long time. In her previous life, she really never came back, because the children of the Tang family are high-class children and shouldn't be unclearly involved with the lower-class people. So for the aspirations in her heart, she has always been never came back, broke contact with Yinlin, and never even went to the grave of his relatives. In essence, she is indeed a selfish woman. For what she wants, she can do whatever it takes, or she can give up the feelings of more than 10 years. Old Chui looked at the Tang girl in front of him, and suddenly felt that she was a bit more mature than the one a year ago. Although the eyebrows were still the same, her speech and manners were no longer what a 2-year-old girl should have. Deep and introverted, there seems to be a deep old-fashioned in the words. When he talked to her, he would ignore her age unconsciously, as if he was talking with a well-experienced peer. There was no gap at all. And she sat quietly across from her, her fingers clasped on her knees, her face was calm and indifferent. At first glance, she had a calm aura, and the pair of raised phoenix eyes had a style that did not fit her age. Perhaps it is because her relatives are no longer there, and she is living alone in a strange city. Let her catalyze her maturity early. Old Chui sighed in his heart, and pitied her a little bit more. His parents and relatives also left early, and he naturally knew how lonely it was. The two of them drank in this old shop together in the dead of night and talked about the things of these years. Until many years later, Tang Jingyun has long become a lofty and admirable object. Whenever he thinks of the scene of this night, he smiles knowingly. Some people are destined to be the phoenix in the sky. Sooner or later, they will take off 90,000 miles. Because there are more things hidden in her eyes than others. Rebirth of the Celebrity Business Woman Chapter 4, Surprise. The rain pattered on a car window, and was swept away by the wiper a vague watermark. The gray sky couldn't see the sun, and the wiper wiped away the water stains, leaving behind vague shadows, making it impossible to see the way forward. A Rolls-Royce was driving under the rain, and the woman driving the car looked young, but there were deep legal lines between her eyebrows. Her pair of raised phoenix eyes were cold and indifferent. At first glance, she was a very strict and self-disciplined superior. She was looking indifferently at the traffic jam on the road, her eyes flashing irritability and impatience. Traffic jams in places like Kyoto were particularly serious, and today's gloomy heavy rain weather is even more unpleasant. It seems that something is going to happen. Finally jumped to the green light and the vehicle started at turtle speed. The woman turned the steering wheel and turned to another intersection. At this moment, the screen of the phone flickered frantically. She picked up the phone and planned to pick it up. A loud bang sounded in her ears, mixed with the exclamation of pedestrians. She felt a whirlpool, and when she raised her eyes, she only hurriedly saw a truck roaring towards her. She seemed to hear the call of death. I only felt a bone pain in my body. I heard the sound of breaking her bones in my ears. I only had time to show a self-deprecating smile. The breastbone shattered and the broken ribs penetrated sharply into the lungs. Such injuries could definitely kill her. A strong sense of suffocation came. Woo! There was a slight tremor. Tang Jingyun suddenly got up from the bed, panting heavily. The suffocation feeling was so real, like a shadow, it seemed that it was really hard to breathe in the last second. Rubbing his face fiercely, he looked around and suddenly remembered that this is his home in Yinlin City. At this moment, the room was quiet. She got up and got out of bed, dragged a pair of slippers, and took a cold shower in the bathroom. The dream just now made her sweat cold, and the sticky sweat was very uncomfortable. She had repeated this dream that was so real to her heart that she had repeated it several times, and the car accident demonstrated in the dream was too realistic. The first time I had this dream was a few days ago, and the process of her death repeated itself over and over again in the dream. She still has a bit of unreality. She doesn't know why she closed her eyes in the last second, and she felt a sense of dissolution in her heart. Then she opened her eyes again in the next second, and she returned to her student days, just after the freshman year. The end of summer. It was also the summer that changed the trajectory of her life. Without hesitation, she packed her clothes, dragged the box, and eagerly left the Kyoto where she had spent more than 10 years of youth, gave up the part-time job she had found, and hurriedly returned to the silver market that had grown up since she was a child. On the first day I came back, I went to worship my 3 relatives and stroked the cold tombstone, which gave me a real feeling. I dried the water stains on my body at will, put on my nightgown, shook my head, and got used to the neat short hair later, but now the long hair of the shawl is quite uncomfortable. I have been immersed in the memories of my previous life these days, but I forgot to take care of my hair. Often when you lean on the sofa, you can sit in silence for an afternoon. There is no place to rush forever, endless entertainments and banquets, so a leisurely life is particularly pleasant. She opened the curtain of the balcony and leaned against the railing of the balcony. This house was bought by my grandma when he was young. It was a very popular location back then. However, the development plan of Yinlin City changed later, and it gradually became remote. Most of the residents still living here are elderly people who have lived there for many years. The faint moonlight came in, and her lips were pale, no longer the rosy of a girl of this age. The wind of summer night blew on her body, with wisps of coolness, which made her head sober. She looked down at her hand, slender and fair, but because she had to help her grandma all the year round, it was a bit rougher than the average young girl. These hands have not experienced various high-end skin care products, and have not yet become his previous life was white and tender but was so thin that he could see clear veins. Ugh. She sighed lowly. Ignorance is the happiest thing, because she doesn't know what she will face in the future, so she can enjoy every moment of the moment. And when you know what is going to happen in the future, the scenes unfold before your eyes, and you will start to become anxious and irritable, and people who are under pressure can't breathe. Suddenly I remembered the wolf-like man I rescued that day. Several days have passed since that night. I had a lot of drinks with Lao Chui that night. She stayed there for one night and left the next morning. The man didn't wake up yet, so he didn't say much. She has been thinking about things quietly these days, and she didn't take him to heart, wondering if he has left. At this time, it suddenly occurred to me that I didn't seem to have asked the man's name. After being blown by the night breeze for a long time, she felt a little cold on her body, and then she got up and left the balcony to go back to sleep. The next morning, Tang Jingyun went to the barber shop, asked the clerk about her request, and cut a neat short haircut. At first, the young man who had a haircut was moved and was surprised, but when he saw her haircut, she couldn't help but sigh. Tang Jingyun just nodded lightly and paid to leave. Then I went to the market, bought a carp, bought a caddy of ribs, some vegetables and bits and pieces of condiments, and went back to my home to cook. In the past, she didn't know how to cook. Under the care of her grandma, some eating was considered a good thing, and who would care about whether it was good or not. Later, when she came to the Tang family, in order to please the Tang family grandfather, she personally learned from the chef and cooked a table of good dishes. By the time she came to power, the Tang family had already been smashed by her, and she was the only owner in the empty ancestral home, and she was used to cooking and eating by herself, so good that she could feel at home. I boiled the carp soup on a low fire, made a sweet and sour pork ribs, fried a green vegetable and a potato shreds, found the insulation box from the house, cleaned it and put it in, and then packed a box of lunch, just hurriedly. Going out. When he arrived at Lao Chui's place, Lao Chui was already having lunch, a glass of wine, a cold dish, and a meat dish. He was pouring and drinking. Seeing Tang Jingyun, she yelled, "Oh," I said, "Tang girl, you are here." Then she saw her new look and said cheerfully, "Not bad, the short hair looks very beautiful, like a June girl." "What's the matter, old Chui?" Tang Jingyun asked, ignoring Chui's ridicule. "Where is the sacred man you brought that day?" "He stays in my small place. I feel uncomfortable every day when I eat and sleep. I feel terrified when I look at that cold aura." Old Chui lowered his voice. Whispering complaints, at the end, he took a breath, "I think it's not easy for him." Tang Jingyun was a little surprised that the man hadn't left, and then realized that he was not slightly injured, and she understood, raising the insulation box in her hand, "I'll send it to him, you eat slowly." Old Chui nodded, then lowered his head to drink. Tang Jingyun smiled. Lao Chui was also an interesting person. People on the street didn't know what his name was. They only knew his surname, and he had been alone all the time. I only heard that he was drunk and said that he came from a family of traditional Chinese medicine. In his generation, he insisted on studying Western medicine. When his family did not agree, he broke up with his family, and then he went to Yinlin City without knowing why. On this old street, he is doing unlicensed medical practice. People in this area who suffer from injuries that are inconvenient to go to a regular hospital, all go to him for treatment. Lao Chui's medical skills are indeed very good, and over time, he is also famous in this area. However, practicing medicine without a license is risky, and that is why there will be the beginning of not delivering a visitor. When Tang Jingyun greeted Lao Chui, Jiang Ye's ears moved. Tang Jingyun's voice was not deliberately lowered, and his sensitive hearing was naturally heard. Listening to the regular sound of footsteps outside the door, it was very calm, not soft or loud. He can outline the woman walking in his mind, with a calm face, raised phoenix eyes, and the walking pace is not fast or slow, maintaining a certain frequency, not like a young and energetic girl, but like a calm and rigorous girl. Older woman. Hearing the rhythmic knock on the door, the corners of his mouth quietly curled up inadvertently, and he said, "Please come in." Jiang Yi raised his eyes and glanced at the woman standing at the door. A momentary surprise flashed through. The light that night was dim and unreal, and he was on the run at the right time. He hadn't had time to carefully look at the woman in front of him, and he saw it truly today. He has quick and sharp short hair, a pretty face with big palms, white as fat, willow brows are like smoke, phoenix eyes are raised, his expression is flat, and the gaze that he looks at is very indifferent. The lip color is pale, not the rosy that should be at this age, and it looks a little more pale, and the eyes are full of smoke, alienated and calm. The facial features are pure and without fendi, with the calm and restrained in the bones. People are subconsciously attracted by her temperament. I really don't know what kind of environment cultivated such a calm woman. Jiang Yi sighed silently in his heart that a woman with such a temperament is rare even among the wealthy families in the capital where he belongs. Tang Jingyun naturally felt the look from the man, the wolf-like sharpness, like a knife peeling the human belt apart, and the secrets buried in the bones were exposed to his sight. She suddenly understood Lao Chui's feelings. It was really not an easy thing to be looked at by such eyes, especially for someone like her with a secret in his heart. Take out the food in the thermal insulation box and place them on the brackets one by one. The fragrance of the food floats from the food, stimulating Jiang Ye's taste buds, and he looks down at the food bought by Lao Chui in his hand. Push away decisively. Tang Jingyun put the contents of the lunch box into the 2 bowls she had brought, and handed it to him, and then passed a pair of chopsticks, and the 2 of them ate lunch in silence. Rebirth of the Celebrity Business Woman Chapter 5, Take Him Home. The meal was finished in silence, and the ceiling fan above his head buzzed. Tang Jingyun shook her head for a moment. How long has she not eaten at the same table with others? Excluding those dinner tables, it seems that it has been a long time. It has been a long time since this concept of time has been blurred. It seems that she started living alone in the cold Tang family's ancestral home. Then she returned to her senses, tidying up everything one by one, wiping her hands clean, and then reaching out to Jiang Yi. "Hello, get to know, I am Tang Jingyun." Jiang Ye's expression flashed in surprise. He thought she wouldn't say her name, because she left him here alone for several days, indifferent and didn't want to be involved in the relationship. "Hello, my name is Jiang Yi." He stretched out his hand and shook hands with her, feeling a bit rough in her hand, and raised his eyebrows in surprise. Tang Jingyun seemed to see his doubts and explained, "Just laughed, the conditions at home are not very good, and I have been used to work since childhood." "Well," Jiang Yi paused, still speaking, "your temperament is very special, I thought you were not from an ordinary family." Tang Jingyun laughed at herself. She really didn't come from an ordinary family. It's not that everyone like her had no parents since she was a child. She was raised by her grandma, and grew up like a boy on the street. "When are you going to leave?" Not wanting to continue this topic, she turned her head and put forward her question concisely. The identity of this man is not simple, staying here for too long will inevitably bring some danger. Although she saved him, she didn't want to harm Lao Chui. "Maybe, the injury on my body is not minor, and strenuous exercise will crack the wound," Jiang Yi said lightly. Tang Jingyun knew that it was temporarily inconvenient for him to show up, so he should find a safe place to heal his injuries. "But you will bring disasters to some people here, and maybe those are nothing in your eyes. You saved me back. You could also choose to throw me by the road, causing me to lose too much blood and die. I'm not such an indifferent person, I can't ignore human life." "No, you can do it. When I first saw you, I knew you were a cruel woman. Mr. Jiang, you are very stale like this." "So what, I never said I wanted a face." The two spoke very calmly. If it weren't for the faster and faster speed of speech and the invisible smoke of gunpowder rubbed by the words, it would be hard to tell that this was a quarrel. A stern face was expressionless, saying shameless words, and a face was indifferent, his lips were raised, and the dissatisfaction in his heart was vomited. Tang Jingyun pursed her lips, "I can see that you are really shameless." Jiang Yi didn't move his eyelids, but was ridiculed by a girl, and there was no less meat on his body, which was nothing. Someone seems to have forgotten that in that bustling Kyoto, he was annoyed by a woman who was accosted at a banquet, and he was annoyed when he was accused of being able to stare at people with that indifferent look. His temper is notorious. Weird, when will you quarrel with a woman? Being scolded is just to show his cheeky improperly. Perhaps the woman in front of her had a calmness that was not suitable for her age, or perhaps the paleness on her face, or even the fact that she was driving the car that night without chaos, which quietly made him more interested in her. Tang Jingyun can see that this man is determined to stay here today. After being silent for a while, Jiang Yi still opened his mouth to explain, "I came to Ming province to do things, and I offended a lot of people on the road. Compared to the day you saw, there are more than one group of people chasing me. Now is the critical time. If you don't show up, others will not be able to deal with me. When the dust settles, I will be safe." Tang Jingyun sighed, knowing that this was the man's biggest concession. She didn't ask about him either. "It's not a good thing to talk shallowly, okay, but you can't stay here, Chui, he comes in and out every day. There are also a lot of people, why don't you move to me?" There were some fluctuations in Jiang Ye's eyebrows. A girl from a good family would not easily invite a man to move to her house to live together. Of course, looking at her appearance that night, and the way she was familiar when talking with Chui, also a girl who is indeed not a good person, she paused and asked in confusion, "Does your family have any opinions?" "It's all dead." Tang Jingyun raised her lips and said indifferently, "I'm sorry." Jiang Yi was a little apologetic, but didn't expect this woman's home to be like this. "It's okay to die, I'll worry about seeing me like this." Tang Jingyun waved her hand, and the sadness of those relatives passing away, for her, was already long enough for her to turn the sadness into a faint sorrow. In the time of the traces, even if she returned to this age, her heart was much harder than others. Jiang Yi wisely kept silent. Tang Jingyun tidied up the things in her hands and found an old dilapidated recliner, which creaked as soon as she sat on it. She has been here since she was very young. She dusted it off and found a comfortable one. Lie down in the posture. She found that she became very lazy when she slackened, either sitting or lying down. The room where Jiang Yi waited was well lit. With two big windows, you could see two laurel trees in the yard, with lush branches and leaves, which was a good place to enjoy the coolness. Without the atmosphere of tension between the two of them just now, her eyebrows were a bit less sharp and a bit softer under the light. Jiang Yi could see between her eyebrows the innocence of her age, although it was rare. Jiang Yi is a very silent person, and he can often sit quietly for an afternoon. His hairpin Lu Hongyu once said, "Brother Jiang cannot even let go of farts all afternoon, and I'm so suffocated." Perhaps it was caused by the living environment since he was a child. He is indeed a silent person. This is how the days of self-cultivation have come over the past few days. It is only today that he is rare to see the poor woman lying on the couch leisurely with little curiosity. "I have spoken, star. Miss Tang, I want to ask you a question." "I have puzzled me for a long time," Jiang Yi said in a low voice, his eyes were rarely confused. "Do you say that a person must have ideals in his life?" Tang Jingyun was a little surprised. She didn't expect this silent man to take the initiative to provoke the topic. He opened her eyes, her thick eyelashes looked like a small golden fan in the sun. Her expression was unpredictable, and people could not guess her idea. "I have heard a very interesting sentence, if a person has no ideals, it is no different from salted fish." Salted fish? Huh, Jiang Yi couldn't help but raised his lips. It was an interesting metaphor. What this man said was really interesting. So you can give up everything for this ideal? Including your own moral bottom line? Who knows, there are always so many crazy people in this world, otherwise there will be so many terrorist organizations. Extremism, of course, more people who talk about it are just hypocritical, how can I say, cannibalism. Those who are always good people who say that they are vegetarians, if they stand upright and admit that they are evil, I admire such people even more. There are a lot of wicked people in this world, but there are not many who can honestly admit that they are wicked. Tang Jingyun couldn't help but think of the many chaos in her previous life, and a little emotion flashed across her face. Wicked person, isn't she in her previous life? It's just that even if you do it again, she will be this villain. Whoever disturbs her life will be responsible for this. If her mood is unhappy, it will simply make everyone unhappy. Therefore, she seized the power from the Tang family, so that they could only look up at her humbly. Jiang Yi looked at the expression on the woman's face, his eyes flashed, and then he remembered something he had experienced, and raised his lips. The task he performed this time would surely stir the nerves of many people because of the violation. The interests of interest groups, but what about it? Who let these provoke him first? Thinking of different things, their minds are so similar. The two never spoke again, each thinking about their own affairs. Before she knew it, Tang Jingyun's breathing became longer and she was obviously asleep. Lian's eyes were no longer fierce, and his expression softened a bit. This is the first time Jiang Yi has been with a woman so close since he was a child. There is a rare smile on the corner of his mouth. It seems that this kind of feeling is also good. After all, this person is not noisy and does not make him feel irritable. By the time Tang Jingyun woke up again, it was already an hour later. The time to fall asleep at night was always very short, and it was easy to get sleepy during the day. She rubbed her forehead and got up from the old dilapidated lounge chair. The sound rang, awakening Jiang Yi who was taking a nap. Looking at the venomous sun outside, she sorted out the folds on her clothes. Jiang Yi raised her eyebrows. He had discovered that although Tang Jingyun's words and deeds were eclectic and a bit of a quagmire, her various etiquettes for eating, shaking hands, and speaking all showed good education. The taste of the upper class was also the reason why he thought she was not a child of ordinary people at first. A light-colored t-shirt and a pair of jeans are a youthful match, but she wears out a mature temperament abruptly. Let's go, you don't see anyone, there must be very few people still dangling outside at this point. Tang Jingyun said calmly. Jiang Yi got out of bed carefully, and it took a few days to recuperate. The wound on her body has not healed completely. It is better to be careful. Hearing this, she twitched the corner of her mouth slightly. She was telling the truth, but that the words "shameless" sounded like a mockery no matter how they heard it. Tang Jingyun glanced back at her, raised her lips, "Don't doubt it, it's just mocking you." After that, he turned and left, leaving Jiang Yi with a thin back. Jiang Yi touched his nose. For the first time, he felt that it was okay to be ridiculed in person like this. Rebirth of the Celebrity Business Woman Chapter 6, 2 or 3 Things to Recuperate. Jiang Yi is now living in Tang Jingyun's house. His clothes are very simple, just 2 clothes, 1 for 1 change. Old Chui took his size and went out to buy it. His original clothes were stained with blood, and the bullet holes left by the shooting were thrown away. Tang Jingyun's house here is 2 rooms, 1 living room, 1 kitchen and 1 bathroom. The larger room was used by her grandma before. Later, the old man passed away. She cleaned everything up, and burned everything that could be burned to her and left. Most of them are furniture, which looks a little empty. Now Jiang Yi lives in this room. His arrival was silent, like a drop of water on the surface of a lake, only a small ripple appeared, and then calmly. Tang Jingyun knows how big the world is, how small a person is, and how difficult it is to find someone among thousands of people. A great price is to be paid, and both human and material resources are indispensable. But facing the man in front of her, she was a little bit bottomless. This man should not be underestimated. When he had something in his hand, he knew that the big man had spent his pains to dig him out of the vast sea of people. She was not sure, because she couldn't see through the man's whole cards. She felt that she really seemed to have a lot of trouble, and when she was about to turn around and leave the trouble stuck to her. While thinking about these things distractedly, while paying attention to the fried greens in my hand, his brows are calm and indifferent, and the steps in his hand are methodical, turning the spoon, stir fry, turn off the heat and serve, and a plate of hot green greens is out of the oven. Then he took the last plate of greens out and put it on the table, untied his apron, and greeted the man who was looking down in the room reading, "Jiang Yi, I'm eating." Jiang Yi raised his head, a faint smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, "Okay." Put the book in his hand on the table beside him, stood up and walked to the table, pulling the chair away skillfully. If outsiders see that this cold-faced Yama actually has a smiling side, even if it is a small smile, they will be exclaimed, "This man can actually have other expressions." He looked at Tang Jingyun who was preparing dinner, and suddenly felt that the decision made by this woman's house was extremely correct. Over the years, he has been performing tasks outside all the year round, traveling around the world, and there are very few days to go home throughout the year. Even when he returns to Kyoto, he likes to stay in his house outside. And these days I stayed here, but I have a rare experience of warmth. Although the conversation between the two is not much, he doesn't like to talk, and the woman doesn't like to talk, always leaning in the chair silently, staring blankly in a daze, or thinking. But even so, the two strangers kept a tacit understanding, making him feel that a woman like a creature was acceptable for the first time. In the same room, 2 people are doing different things, but they can see each other when they look up. This will give him the illusion that this is a warm home. And this seemingly indifferent woman, who can calmly face the gunner, couldn't think of the side of a little woman, who cooked good dishes. After eating, the 2 of them cleaned up together, and they did their own things. The weather was hot. This house was an old house. Air conditioning was never installed. Only 2 ceiling fans were buzzing all day long, but they still made him sweat. After eating, Jiang Yi went into the bathroom to take a shower. Tang Jingyun entered her room. She recently sorted out the things left by her grandma, and found a few gold ornaments. They all seemed to be a few years old. They should have been worn by her when she was young. Stored in grandma's cabinet. Holding the box, she went out and walked to Jiang Ye's room. The door was not closed and half covered. She reached out and knocked on the door. "Please come in." The man's low voice came out of the room. She opened the half-covered door and saw Jiang Yi was wearing clothes with her back facing her, the bath towel was being stripped from him, and she was thrown aside. The broad back line, broad shoulders and narrow waist, like a knife and axe, smooth and tight muscles covering his tall skeleton, showing amazing explosive power. There are many scars on the body, both new and old. It is said that the scar is a badge of a man's body, and it is true. Looking at the scar on this man's body, there will be a deep shock. You can imagine how dangerous he has been. This is only the back, and there is no shortage of fronts. Tang Jingyun couldn't help blowing a whistle, and she praised, "Good figure. I had guessed that a man must have an excellent figure under his clothes. After all, he didn't look directly like this. This figure can definitely make most men feel inferior." Jiang Yi with Tang Jingyun's back turned up, and he knew that this strong woman must like strong men more in her bones. Only in this way would she have the desire to conquer, and he was praised by her. "There is a secret pride in my heart." He picked up the nightgown next to the bed and put it on himself, with a loose knot tied around his waist. When he turned around, he had restored his usual expressionless face, and asked, "Is something wrong with me?" I looked at my figure, and didn't blush at all. Tang Jingyun raised the box in her hand to signal her purpose, but she didn't rush to get things started. Instead, she looked at this man jokingly. "A strong man can always arouse a woman's desire to conquer. You, the peach blossom luck in the past must have been great. If I change it to me, I'm willing to post it upside down." "They don't dare." Jiang Yi raised his eyes and glanced at her, his tone faint. "They don't have the guts of you. Apart from a few people who can see his body, she is the only one." He. Tang Jingyun smiled. "Yes, just one glance at someone is enough to scare others away. She has deeply experienced his sharp eyes, as sharp as a knife, and most people will be scared and crying when they are looked at like this." "It is possible." Jiang Yi looked at this little woman with a low smile, like an overnight flower in full bloom, instantly touching, and earnestly said, "You should laugh more. Have you ever told you that you smile beautifully? This is what your age should be." Some smiles. Tang Jingyun laughed rare, her phoenix eyes raised, her eyebrows smiled. "Yes, it's a pity, my smile is not something that can be eaten by any man." Seeing the man on the opposite side swallowed hard and smiled triumphantly, she had been reborn for so long and had been out of the cage, she seemed to gradually find her own smile, not in the exquisite masks she used to. Once smiled in the mirror, she knew how powerful a smile like her was to a man. Her green face, full of amorous phoenix eyes, with 3 or 2 points of calmness, mixed with a different kind of temperament. In the next second, she suppressed the smile on her face, and returned to her usual indifferent. Her sophisticated temperament came back. Jiang Yi shook his head and smiled. "I can see that you really can't bear this smile for ordinary men, and you should worry about whether the red apricot will go out of the wall all day long. Actually you look good when you smile, and you're crazy about women." Tang Jingyun said, turning around and putting the box in her hand in an old cabinet. "This is my grandma's relic. I found it by accident and planned to seal it." "Stand up." After these days of getting along, the two people are no longer as blunt as they were at the beginning, and from time to time they can still chat a few words, but this is the first time for the jokes like today. It seems to have broken a certain kind of barrier and opened up the two of them. A new way of communication. Originally, both of them thought that each other was a cold and reticent person, but today they discovered that they actually have a hidden side to each other. Maybe they don't talk much, but they are not boring. Tang Jingyun saw this man at the first glance, and she felt that he had an aura of killing and decisiveness. She was cold and indifferent, making people afraid to approach easily, like a lone wolf. Until today, she suddenly realized that this man in fact, there is another side, like a living person, who are all social animals and are eager to communicate. Unexpectedly you still have such a side. Both. Jiang Yi said. He always felt that this woman had a calmness that was not suitable for her age, and her eyes always revealed alienation and indifference, like those middle-aged people who have experienced vicissitudes of life. Only when you have a deep vigilance about this society will you be sophisticated and mature, and will maintain an indifferent attitude towards the people and things around you. Tomorrow, can I borrow a few books that don't need knowledge about firearms? I have already mastered those things when I was a young adult, Jiang Yi said. Tang Jingyun smiled faintly. I am helping you consolidate your foundation. The man's eyes flashed helplessly. I knew you did it deliberately. He just said, this woman is obviously a very smart woman. It turned out to be deliberate. It was really bad, but it was hidden in her plain expression. Next, if I don't break through today, are you planning to cheat me all the time? Tang Jingyun smiled indifferently and nodded very directly, yes. You. He sighed, and suddenly remembered the words, communication is important, that Xiao Lu Hongyu mentioned in his ear. Without saying anything, Tang Jingyun returned to the room after completing her purpose of coming here, call. Tang Jingyun sat up abruptly from the bed and rubbed her still aching temples. She was dreaming again, and the scene of her death replayed in her mind, accurately and realistically, making her always feel suffocated in her chest, and suddenly no sleep. However, the dream reaction is much better than before, at least now it is no longer covered in cold sweat, at most it is awakened. She could not sleep anyway, she simply lifted the quilt and got out of the bed, put on a pair of slippers and walked out of the room, took a can of cold beer from the refrigerator, walked to the balcony, leaned on the railing and drank the beer quietly, blowing the night wind. Can't sleep. A man's voice came from behind her. Rebirth of the Celebrity Businesswoman Chapter 7, Because of Loneliness. The arrival of the people came silently, and the footsteps were so light that they never stepped on the ground. Jiang Yi followed her, leaning on the railing, looking at her sideways, and saw that she was holding a beer in one hand and playing with a beer in the other. Jade pulls the finger. From the texture and style of the finger, it should be an old object, obviously not what she should use. Yeah. Tang Jingyun said, her expression indifferent, she was not at all shocked by an unknown man behind her in the middle of the night. She raised her eyes to look at the dark patches in the distance, and sipped a sip of beer. Under the moonlight, her face became paler, her upturned phoenix eyes were slightly narrowed, a bit less sharp, and a bit more haggard. Something on your mind? Jiang Yi asked again. He was used to being vigilant. He was awakened by the sound of the door opening in the next room in the middle of the night. After thinking about it, he followed. Out of a tenant's gratitude for taking in his tenant, he had to solve something for her. But I didn't want to see this woman take a can of beer and ran to the balcony to blow the air at night. Her whole body seems to fall into the embrace of the night, her back is a bit thin, but her spine is straight, and her not broad shoulders seem to be able to hold up a piece of heaven and earth, but when she is drinking with her head sideways, but he saw a bit of depression and loneliness, as if he did not fit into this world. So he spoke. Well, there's something to worry about, it's something like shit. The tone was flat, but he still felt the feeling of bitterness and hatred very deeply. You said you are a little girl, why can you hide so many thoughts in your heart? You go find a naive little the street and see if someone will take you in. Tang Jingyun retorted. Jiang Yi touched his nose helplessly, and looked down at her pointedly. Indeed, the little girl is definitely not as bold as you. She is only wearing a white nightgown. Although the waistband is not loose, it is absolutely not tight. Jiang Yi is a head taller than her, and she can faintly see her white chest when she lowers her head. He was sure that she was absolutely naked under the nightgown. He had never seen a girl like this before, who would be so casual in front of a strange man, as if he didn't worry about certain things at all. Tang Jingyun lowered her head and realized that the man meant something. She glanced at him with a smile, and then gathered the skirt of her nightgown nonchalantly. Although the shell was changed, the chip inside did not change. She was essentially an old woman in her 30s who was accustomed to seeing the erosions in that circle. Naturally, she was not as wary of these as girls of this age. Or can't afford to joke. I believe in instinct more, I always think you would not be such a man. She smiled at him sideways, then raised her head and took a sip of beer, revealing her slender neck. Furthermore, even if something really happened, didn't it happen to get some money from you? I just have a tight hand. Jiang Yi couldn't help but smiled. You are not such a woman either. Tang Jingyun put the beer in her hand on the railing, hung her finger back to her neck, drew back, went to the refrigerator and took another can of beer, and went to the man with a pack of cigarettes and a lighter from the table. Passing it to him, he lit a cigarette. This is the first time I saw you smoking. Jiang Yi took the beer, opened the can, and took a sip. He thought this woman was interesting here. It seemed that she would have a lot of things that are not good girls, smoking, she drinks everything, but she doesn't have a frivolous taste, as if this is a serious matter. Because of loneliness, most of the women who smoke are lonely. Tang Jingyun said with a smile, her eyes flashed with emotion, "Don't persuade me, I will pay attention to my body." "Who said I want to persuade you?" The man stretched out his hand and took the cigarette case from her hand, picked one, lit it, and took a sip. "I just want to have one too." "Hee, it's strange, I think you are not like a person who can smoke because of your self-discipline." "Because I also have troubles. I smoke one when I'm upset, not often." When he said this, he also looked at her pointedly. She raised her eyes and smiled, really a keen man. Irritability, yes, she is irritable, because every time she wakes up and sees the emerald finger in her neck, it reminds her that many things are doomed to happen. For example, to find her, an illegitimate girl who was living outside, no, maybe it should be because of the finger in her neck. Such an expensive thing is naturally not something their family can have. It was obtained by her short-lived mother from her affectionate father Tang Jiqian. When the two were deeply affectionate, Tang Jiqian once gave this Karthetian jade to give it to him. Her mother makes a token of love. Later, he learned that the finger was actually a token and a symbol of the mistress of the Tang family. Throughout the ages, all the mistress of the Tang family wore this ring. Back then, his grandmother did not give the ring to his mother, but gave it to him. Later when he married his wife, no one mentioned it, so he forgot about it, and didn't think of it until he really needed it. The Tang family suddenly became anxious. How could the mistress of the house not have this finger? Only then did she want to find it back. This was how she would later recognize her. As for why it took more than 20 years to think of it, it naturally involves the secrets of the previous generation. Tang Jingyun gradually learned about these things after she returned to the Tang family. The so-called, "I miss my daughter and can't bear to live outside," is a scam. Just to get back the finger in her hand, it is ridiculous that she was naive to believe it and walked in. After getting out of the quagmire of the Tang family, after waiting for a lot of things to become clear, I suddenly realized that everything was just a joke. If you really had been thinking of her long ago, would you wait until she was 20 years old before thinking of picking her up? Will she be allowed to enter the upper class in a humble and dusty image? After all, she still couldn't see clearly. Once again, she always feels very upset. Someone will come to her this summer. Although she never stayed in Kyoto as part-time job like her previous life, it is not difficult for the Tang family to insist on finding her. Repeat. Ugh. She couldn't help but sighed softly, took a sigh of smoke, and spit out a ring of smoke after a lap in her lungs. Tang Jingyun's face was rarely sad, and she turned to look at the person beside her. "Man, why do you say that life is like a play, but this play does not follow the script, it has to be so many unexpected turns, and it is choking for a good life." Jiang Yi looked at her like this. Because of her drinking, the corners of her upturned eyes were a little red, as if she had cried. There was a little bit of regret and helplessness in her indifferent and alienated eyes, and the corners of her mouth licked dissatisfiedly, like a little the child was complaining about his dissatisfaction, and his heart moved slightly. "Whose life is not like this? I used to think that I would spend my whole life happily, but one day I suddenly realized that everything is an illusion." Jiang Yi looked into her eyes and said seriously, "You know what, I remember when I was very young, when I was about 5 or 6 years old, I watched the man I called my father, sleeping in bed with a woman in my arms, and suddenly I felt very sick and dirty. My father used to have a tall image in front of me, but unfortunately, it was destroyed later. I don't understand. If even a close relative like my father can perform a falsehood in front of me, then what I saw is still how true is it? Later, my parents divorced, and I learned that my mother was also outside. Both of them have always been a pair of fake couples. I don't like going home very much. Even if my father has changed, it doesn't look like when I was young anymore. That kind of love, even now single, is extremely guilty for me to develop the temperament I am now. I still don't like him." When he spoke, his expression was faint, as if he was telling a story, but there was a kind of coldness flowing in his eyes. He used to think that these things would not be told to anyone, but he didn't want to easily talk to this woman who hadn't known him for a long time. It seemed that it was not difficult to talk to people. Tang Jingyun extinguished the cigarette between her fingers, the movement in her hand paused, and then she stretched out her hand to him nonchalantly, arms around his powerful waist, crossed his back waist, her head lightly buried on his shoulders. He sighed in a low voice, "Let me lean on your solid chest and pretend I have someone to rely on." Jiang Ye's body stiffened. His life experience and occupation made him not accustomed to such intimate contact, but he felt the rare softness of the person in his arms, as if a sharp and hurtful thorn had been restrained, so he still acquiesced. Her actions. There was a pause for a few seconds, and his arm was placed stiffly on her waist. The touch was very soft, a bit cold, and it felt strange to put his big fiery hand on it. After a long while, Tang Jingyun said playfully, "Your heart is beating so fast." "Well, because this is the first time I have embraced a woman." Jiang Yi pursed his lips, and he discovered the side of this woman again. She seemed to like to tease herself. "It's strange that there are still innocent and attractive men like you these days." "Well, I think so too." "Hee, you also have a narcissistic side, it's rare." Tang Jingyun let go of the hand around his waist, trying to break free, but found that her waist was tightly locked. She couldn't help but raised her head to look up at the man slightly. The handsome and sharp facial features were beautiful in the night. Jiang Yi looked down at her, pressed her head against his chest with one hand, and smiled at the corner of his mouth. "I find that holding a woman feels very good, soft and comfortable, so let me hold her for a while." There was a flash of red on the tips of his ears. Tang Jingyun was silent for a few seconds, and smirked in his arms. In the summer night, the two embraced each other like this, and it seemed that something ambiguous was breeding. Rebirth of the Celebrity Business Woman Chapter 8, Blend. For Tang Jingyun, the following life didn't seem to have changed much, and the relationship between the two did not change much because of the hug that night. It's just that Tang Jingyun, who was originally alienated and indifferent to Jiang Yi, brought back things from outside from time to time, such as razors, men's slippers, 1 or 2 books he likes to read. They were all odds and ends, but inadvertently. This made this empty and lackluster house a bit more popular. And the things that were contaminated with that man's breath left traces of life, blending with the original owner. Jiang Yi thinks that Tang Jingyun is a wonderful woman. She has never tried to inquire about his identity. She has always kept 1 or 2 separate spaces between each other. She does not interfere, understand, or even step on that line, because the relationship between each other is clearly defined. Some things, once you know it, you can't forget it if you want to forget it. Obviously she knows this very well. This is also the place where he feels a little contrary. He obviously doesn't seem to be very old, and the youthfulness on his face has not been polished, but he is so calm and sophisticated in his actions. He can only blame the hardened people in life, perhaps hers. Her life experience and growth environment made her extraordinarily precocious. Thinking of something in my heart, I took out my mobile phone from my pocket, dialed several numbers proficiently, and it didn't take long for the call to be picked up. "Captain, you can count as a call. Where did you go? If it weren't for you to send me text messages from time to time, I would suspect that something was wrong with you. The dead old man is about to toss me to death." As soon as the phone was connected, there was a series of crackling complaints from the other side. Jiang Yi moved the phone away from his ear. After he complained for a while, he moved it back to his ear and asked faintly, "Shut up, I'll hang up any more nonsense." There was a silence over there, joking. The captain was notoriously bad-tempered, he was a tyrant, he liked to order and prohibit. Last time, a newcomer who came in through the back door retorted the captain recklessly. In the end, he was abused as a human being. The model of, come in vertically, lie down and go out, people came backstage to find the fault, and the captain shot a gun to the head, stupefied that he didn't even dare to put a fart and went back obediently. From then on, everyone knew how cruel the captain was, and no one dared to refute his words. "How is the situation?" Jiang Yi said lightly. "The net has been closed, and all the materials have been sorted out. I just wait to hand it over to the upper hand. This time I will guarantee that they will have no chance to turn over again. When it comes to it, the person on the other side immediately showed their energy." "Son," Jiang Yi said with satisfaction. He is very satisfied with the ability of his deputy. He never procrastinates in his work. He is very vigorous and has done a few big things well. If it weren't for the fact that he was pressing on him, it would be early. Then it became regular. You can take care of the rest. I'll stay outside for a while. Don't bother me if it's not a big deal. Jiang Yi said, giving orders directly. The person on the other side dared not refute a word. The man who had been on mission all year round offered to take a break. Who would dare to say nothing? When the people on the other end hung up the phone, Louis Feng let out a sigh of relief. This master's background is too big, and his merits are too prominent, and he can't make any mistakes. The first few times I contacted by text messages, I felt a little uneasy. Only after hearing his voice did I really feel relieved. Thinking of the old man who was looking for news about his captain and was going crazy, he hurriedly went to report his safety. Besides Jiang Yi, he hung up the other party's phone and guessed in his heart that he must be anxious to report his safety at this time. Hearing his tone, he knew that he was tossed by the upper head. Also, whoever lost his home in the action the boss is not a trivial matter. Thinking about this, his ears moved, his sensitive hearing heard her footsteps, and the sound of the key turning came from the door. He turned to look at the door and greeted, back. Well, Tang Jingyun replied without raising her head while changing shoes, I bought you a bath towel today. Don't you think the bath towel is too small to hold your stalwart body? Jiang Yi nodded, this is a fact. Tang Jingyun raised a smile at the corner of her mouth and looked at the man sitting on the chair. After getting along for a long time, she realized that he was cheeky in some aspects, and could be ashamed and ethical, as long as he could achieve his goal. She threw the bath towel to him, turned around and put the things in her hands in the kitchen, washed the handles, her smile became flat, her eyebrows wrinkled, and she remembered some news she heard when she inquired with friends today. There was a little wave in my heart. Although she had long guessed that this man was not easy, but from the news she heard, based on the experience of the previous life, she pieced together to restore some thrilling things. What kind of trouble is this? She couldn't help muttering in her heart, her hands kept moving, sitting at a table of food. After eating lunch, Tang Jingyun moved to the place. She spread a mat on the floor, facing the balcony. The cool breeze coming through the balcony can be blown. Equipped with an electric fan, it is an excellent lunch break. Jiang Yi consciously sat on the side of the summer mat, with his back leaning against the wall, and looking down at the books. These days, the two have always been in this way of getting along. Tang Jingyun squinted at the man sitting opposite. She did have a good-looking face, slashed, with a unique taste of a man. Her upper body was always naked because of injuries, her muscles were distinct and strong, and the gunshot wound under her ribs was under her ribs. Scarring, a bit more manly. Jiang Yi, I will find someone to make an appointment with Lord Zhu the next day. You can drink a few glasses with him, and let him help you smooth things out. She squinted and turned to look at the electric fan rotating above her head. Jiang Ye's movement of turning the book stopped, his slender fingers bent, and then he turned a page casually, and said in a low voice, How much do you know? Not much. I just ran into a friend and talked a few more words today, and then I guessed something unexpectedly. I didn't expect you to be the one who disturbed the city. Tang Jingyun turned his gaze back to his face. He spoke flatly. The man looked at the woman lying on the mat, and stared at her eyes. Oh. He found her face was plain, her eyes didn't even seem to be surprised and terrified, and some were just calm. Do you know Lord Zhu? You are you, Jiang Yi. In my opinion, there is not much difference between people and people. As long as my bottom line is not involved, I am actually a very good person. She explained indifferently, with a kind of expression in her eyes. The usual blandness. As for Master Zhu, I happened to save his life. Master Zhu talked about loyalty and treated me pretty well. His speeches in the underground world of Ming province are quite heavy. I believe he has his face. Now, some grievances can also be eliminated. Ha! I underestimated you. Jiang Ye's guard was loosened, and his body tightened to relax again. Yes, someone who can be pointed at by my gun while remaining calm, but isn't it simple? Girl. I don't know much, but as you said, everything has settled down. Your raptor is too powerful. I believe that those earth-headed snakes care about you too much. You have the face of Lord Zhu. Those who want to come are happy to get down this level. Tang Jingyan calmly analyzed and said that there are veterans who do not belong to this age in her expression, and she seems to understand these principles. Okay, I'll listen to you. Jiang Yi nodded. His actions in Ming province were a bit rush, so he offended many small forces. Although he didn't take it seriously, he didn't want to have more enemies. He was thinking about who to look for to be the old man. He didn't expect the woman in front of him to find him for him, Lord Zhu. It is indeed a good target. Getting along with her these days, she buys vegetables and cooks every day, takes care of the housework, so that he subconsciously regards her as a little woman, and now he suddenly wakes up, these are just her appearance, just like her appearance, look it's young and astringent, but it's mature and restrained inside. She was able to face his gun calmly, and she was able to drag a car in the middle of the night to prevent the desperados from catching up, all revealing her difficulty. He almost forgot. Until today, under her active mention, he suddenly remembered that this was a woman who could save the life of Lord Zhu. This alone showed her extraordinary. Actually, I haven't been in contact with them for a long time. Tang Jingyan looked at the man's dark and deep eyes, there was something she couldn't understand, and said, the circle is exclusive, and women who don't fans can't get mixed up. Jiang Yi nodded, and the corners of her mouth curled upwards, I can see that you are a good girl. Although smoking and drinking are not something a good girl should contaminate, she still has her own persistence. So Na, can you take your hand out of the back of your book? Tang Jingyan asked playfully. He slowly closed the book, revealing his hand under the book and a metallic pistol. It is his Browning large-caliber pistol. Facing her playful gaze, he calmly placed the pistol to a place that could be reached with one hand beside him, and then continued to look down at the book. Tang Jingyan smiled and watched the man's movements, until she looked at the man uncomfortably and coughed, get used to it. I understand, the heart of defense is indispensable. She felt that the wind blowing in the summer was very cool, and such a peaceful life made her enjoy it, and she couldn't help feeling a little sleepy. I patted half of the mat next to me, if you are sleepy, go to sleep, I don't dislike you for sharing the bed with me. After that, I moved around and fell asleep quietly. Jiang Yi looked at her peaceful face, and her heart's ups and downs gradually calmed down. Only then did she feel that she had made a fuss today. This woman has already counted her reaction. Is it a failure? Feeling the cool breeze, my chest hurts from the gunshot wound, and the gunshot wound is slow to heal, especially when it is healed, it will disturb people's sleep well. I can't rest well these nights. I watched to sleep at this time. While she was still, she couldn't help feeling a little sleepy, and fell asleep after listening to her words. Rebirth of the Celebrity Business Woman Chapter 9, Zhu Yi. Tang Jingyan's handling efficiency is quite high, and within a few days, she contacted and settled the matter on Zhu's side, and then brought Jiang Yi to the banquet. She looked at a man in ordinary clothes today. The black shirt concealed the man's explosive figure, but the tightness of the shirt outlines his figure. The legs in black trousers are straight, which emphasizes the hard to ignore tension. It seems that as long as you stand there, it will become the focus of the world's attention. With that slashed face, two sword eyebrows flew diagonally into the temple, and a pair of sharp and indifferent eyes. Just looking at it would make people unconsciously chill, but Tang Jingyan would not be afraid of him. She approached him and straightened his collar for him. Sorry, I don't have much money on hand, so I can only wrong you to wear such clothes. This is the truth, otherwise she wouldn't want to stay at this time in her previous life. In a part-time job in Beijing, she really doesn't have much money on hand. These days of getting along, have made Jiang Yi accustomed to this woman's close body, slightly lowered his head, let the little woman take care of him, a faint smile flashed in his eyes, it's okay, I like everything you buy. After taking care of his clothes, he smiled faintly, it's really dazzling, I don't want to take you out. Jiang Yi pursed his lips and smiled, you are also beautiful. She has a white shirt today, which outlines her well-developed figure. In the past, her clothes at home were mostly loose t-shirts, but today she discovered that she was originally curvy. A pair of jeans on the lower body, outlines the slender waist and long legs, and a neat short hair, which looks full of youthful breath. He saw the slightly messy hair in her ears, and gently flicked the hair with his fingers subconsciously. Tang Jingyan was taken aback for a moment, then smiled, and said nonchalantly, "Let's go." Jiang Yi nodded, his fingers curled slightly, seemingly nostalgic for his fingertips. Today's Linquan bar does not seem to be different from the past. It's just as lively and the guests are still noisy, but this is just the appearance. All the members who watched the scene today will put their vigilance to the highest level and be very energetic. For fear of something wrong, no one would plead for 3 knives and 6 holes. In a box on the 3rd floor, an elderly man over 50 years old, with a slightly loose face, rosy complexion, clear eyes, wearing a dark red Tang suit, exquisite dark gold embroidered on the collar and cuffs, adding a bit of majesty, leaning on the sofa and drinking tea quietly. At this moment, this peaceful old man is the famous Zhu Yi in Ming Province. Even though he looks like an old man next door at this time, he is a famous master with ruthless methods. Zhu Yi made his fortune by transporting people, and there is a legendary story. Originally named Zhu San, it is said that he was ranked 3rd in the family. Back then, when the family was too hard to make ends meet, he came out alone and started doing coolies for others because he had a lot of strength and worked agilely, so he took a lot of work. Later brought a few friends to live with him, somehow offended him, and was with his brother. He brought a hatchet to the door alone, picked 6, chopped down 6, broke 3 ribs, and rescued his brother in a daze. This time he gained a reputation for being so cruel. People on the road are nothing more than 2 points. One is loyalty and the other is cruel. Many people are afraid of him because of his reputation, so they have their own way on the dock. This person Zhu Yi has the means very much. After conquering a group of subordinates and being loyal, his business has grown bigger and bigger unknowingly, and he has become a well-known figure. To this day, he alone accounts for 30% of the transportation industry in Ming Province. It can be said that Ming is a figure who can shake 3 shocks by stomping his foot. He is also a very experienced old man in the underground world. Many people see it. Call Master Zhu respectfully. A man of about 30 stood respectfully standing in front of him, bowing his head and reporting, "Master Zhu, the people below have already been arranged. The cook has already arrived. He made 36 dishes in Ming Province. The most authentic. As for the other arrangements, they have been prepared, and there are brothers guarding them outside to make sure nothing goes wrong." Master Zhu bowed his head and took a sip of tea, and sighed, "Zhaoxiang, you have arranged this very well." Chen Zhaoxiang just nodded respectfully, acting very calmly, without the joy of being praised by the famous Zhu Yi. Ji nodded in his heart, he has no children in his life, Chen Zhaoxiang is the heir he specially cultivated, and he is very satisfied at this time. The performance, but in the end is still a little tender, and experience is also lacking. Are there any doubts? Chen Zhaoxiang hesitated for a while, and still said, "Master Zhu, it's just a reconciliation. Is it necessary to make it so grand? Even the dead man, the man who sits on the top spot in the underworld in Ming Province, is also the Master Zhu. It's just the same etiquette, isn't it a bit too much?" Not to mention that the brothers underneath were all whispering in secret, even he couldn't grasp the thoughts of Lord Zhu. Zhu Yi shook his head and sighed, you don't think enough. That kid is a raptor who crosses the river. Under the attack of so many forces in Ming Province, he has got so much information. Is it really that simple for you to be him? Do you know who is behind him, so that he has the confidence to run wild in Ming Province? Do you really think he cares about mediation? Those people are not scary in his eyes. It's just that this person knows how to deal with the world. That's why he lowered his head and came to me. His mentality is truly rare. You said, if you were you, would you bow your head for irrelevant people and things? Chen Zhaoxiang thought for a while and shook his head. Furthermore, you probably haven't received the news yet. The forces that ambushed him that day will probably all go in. Master Zhu said at the right time, what a cruel young man. Where do you go? Naturally in prison. When Zhu Yi said this, his tone was a little admiring, and now there are not many young people who stand up proudly and bow their heads. Chen Zhaoxiang heard the meaning of Zhu's words, and respectfully responded, secretly paying more attention to the man who is coming today, and Zhu admires not many people, but every one of them is a contemporary master. When he really saw Jiang Yi, he was truly shocked. That man, with a bee-back and awe-inspiring face, could not hide his harsh breath even in cheap clothes. He scanned the crowd and saw himself at a glance. His eyes were dark and cold, revealing a life-threatening look. Ignoring and seeing through people's hearts, just a glance made the alarm bell in his heart ring frantically. Dangerous. This is a dangerous man. Jiang Yi nodded to Chen Zhaoxiang expressionlessly. Except for Tang Jingyun, the woman who suddenly broke into his life, it was difficult for him to smile at anyone. Chen Zhaoxiang didn't take it off, showing a somewhat polite smile, and stretched out his hand to signal, "Please, Lord Zhu has been waiting for a long time." Jiang Yi nodded, and said to Tang Jingyun on the side, "Let's go." The two walked side by side. Only then did Chen Zhaoxiang notice that there was a woman next to Jiang Yi. Jiang Ye's aura was too strong just now, and he even ignored the people next to him for a while. He looked at Tang Jingyun, with an extremely outstanding appearance, calm. With a look, the white shirt button was buttoned to the second button, revealing a slender neck, and a pair of waisted jeans looked neat and tidy. The curiosity in his heart flashed by, but his face was calm. Naturally, someone respectfully opened the door for the three of them, and the three of them walked in one by one. Jiang Yi just nodded to the old man sitting on the sofa, but Tang Jingyun stepped forward respectfully. "Master Zhu, I haven't seen you in a long time, you are still strong." Lord Zhu saw Tang Jingyun, stood up, and laughed when he heard the words, "Tang family girl, long time no see, how rusty." He looked at the girl in front of him, her appearance was still slightly green, but she was already very protruding. A pair of phoenix eyes are slightly raised, with unspeakable amorous feelings. "I can imagine that the future will be a generation of beautiful women. It is said that the female Big 18 change, Tang girl went out to study for a year, but you are beautiful, Lord Zhu, I don't even dare to recognize it." Chen Zhaoxiang stood aside, and his heart jumped fiercely when he heard the words. He never had such a kind side to the murderous and determined Master Zhu, but at this time he laughed so loudly at this little girl and became even more curious about her identity. "Zhaoxiang, let me introduce you. This girl is Tang Jingyun. Don't look like a girl, but she's wild. Someone rushed out of the bar and attacked me with a machete." Everyone was shocked. Only this girl held her hand. "I'm going to smash my beer bottle on someone's head. If it weren't for this girl, I'm afraid I would have died." This sentimentality, so when she called to mention something, he agreed without hesitation. Chen Zhaoxiang was a little unbelievable that this well-trained woman in front of him still had such a crazy side. He had heard of Zhu Yi in distress, but he did not expect that it was this girl who made the shot. 18 changes, it is really good. Presumably this is Mr. Jiang you mentioned on the phone. Master Zhu cast his gaze on Jiang Yi, his eyes flashed with appreciation. Tang Jingyun nodded and smiled. "Yes, he is Jiang Yi, currently living with me." Both of them are human spirits, and there is no surprised expression on their faces, as simple as a common saying. Jiang Ye's lips lifted quietly. This woman was really speechless, but he liked it. Master Zhu invited the two to take a seat, and Chen Zhaoxiang respectfully stood behind Master Zhu. Tang Jingyun's demeanor was very natural. She did not face the tension of an old man with a fierce reputation at all. She always maintained a natural attitude, just like the old man next door sitting on the opposite side. This demeanor made people look at her. Jiang Yi unconsciously put his gaze on her body, and then it suddenly became clear that the light showing off her body at this time was the real one. Rebirth of the Celebrity Business Woman Chapter 10, Splash Your Face. Lin Quan Bar is a well-known place in Yinlin City. It is not only the exquisite service here, but also the property of Zhu Yi. So many people who come to play here know that, don't make trouble here, or you will be driven away. Those who go out will never be qualified to step into this realm again. Tang Jingyun rubbed her forehead, feeling a little swelling and pain in her head. Fortunately, she had already prepared before coming. She cushioned her stomach in advance. Otherwise, her stomach must be uncomfortable at this time. She trapped herself deeply on the soft sofa behind her and felt comfortable. Sighed. After chatting with Zhu Yi, she went to the dinner table according to Chinese habits, and when dealing with these underworld people, it was natural that she had to drink. She had been in it for a long time and naturally understood this truth. Although she is a small girl, Juyi and the others have no mercy. In their eyes, drinking with a girl like her is because they look at her and treat her like a brother, and she also treats her like a brother. Drink willingly. Thinking of the caressing meaning in Zhu's words, she couldn't help but raise the corners of her lips and smiled. She thought that Zhu was interesting and could put her a young girl in an appropriate position, not because of her gender and age. And there is no wonder that he can have the status it is now. At this time, she was thinking a lot of things in her heart, but she didn't know that she had become a pure little sheep in the eyes of others. She had an outstanding appearance, a green face, and her eyes were amorous, her white face was flushed, and she looked like a little girl who sneaked into a bar and accidentally got drunk. Many people looked at her with dark eyes. The two men on the side of the bar, one tall and the other short, the taller man looks good, but his eyes are somewhat frivolous, and the other man's face is slightly fierce. At this time, the two looked at each other and smiled wretchedly. The two took the wine glasses and walked to the sofa where Tang Jingyun was. There were people around who knew the two, and they all sighed with pity towards the drunk girl, but they did not stand up. When Tang Jingyun rubbed her forehead, she keenly noticed that someone was approaching, looking in the direction, her brows frowned. It was the two tall and short. The tall man was holding a glass of wine. "Miss, can you please? You drink?" Tang Jingyun frowned at this kind of strike-up. She hadn't missed the obscene look in the eyes of the two of them, her expression constricted, and she said coldly, "No need." "Miss, don't be so cold," another short man said. The two obviously cooperated very well. They walked to the side of Tang Jingyun's sofa and blocked her in the middle. Tang Jingyun frowned again. She had drunk a lot of alcohol today. After all, this body hasn't gotten the amount of 1,000 glasses of alcohol in the previous life. Her head is swollen and painful. "Say it again, get out. Otherwise, let you all today. Crawl out for me." When she spoke with the majesty of the superior, the expressions of the two of them were stagnant, and then they were angry again, and they were actually frightened by a little girl. They approached indiscriminately. "Little girl," in a big tone, "I don't even look at whose site this is. This is Lord Zhu's. I tell you, no one can help you here." Tang Jingyun's eyebrows were sharp for a moment. TMD, she didn't take action against Jiang Yi, that was because he was afraid that he had a gun in his hand. As for these two punks, she didn't pay attention to it. She picked up the bottle left on the table and moved towards the tall man, smashed it, boom, and the wine bottle shattered. Everyone at the scene felt a tingling on the top of their heads. No one had thought that this little girl was so hot. He grabbed the wine glass in the short man's hand with one hand, and did not relax under his feet. He kicked his waist and seemed to hear the sound of broken bones. He couldn't prevent his feet from getting weak. Tang Jingyun clasped his throat with one hand and held the drink, splashed him, then threw it to the ground, disdainfully. "Waste." The short man yelled, "You dare to splash me? I'm being merciful if you splash your face." Tang Jingyun replied coldly, "Otherwise I will let you taste the blood today." Then he raised his eyes. Fang's eyes were biting, and he scanned the audience coldly. At this time, his eyebrows were sharp, making people avoid her gaze unconsciously, and he felt that he was pierced by the coldness in her eyes when he glanced at it. The big guy watching the scene has already paid attention to the troubles here, and dissatisfaction has arisen in his heart. "Today, I told you that there are important people coming, don't make troubles," but Lin Quan, which has always been in good order, has some people making trouble today. It is really bad luck. Upon closer inspection, he found that it was the two brothers from the Wang family who fell to the ground. These two boys usually do not do good things, but do things very authentically, so he usually keeps one eye open. At this moment, looking at the two people in embarrassment, looking at myself with a bit of pleading and fierceness, thinking of the woman who had only contributed to me yesterday, I glanced at Tang Jingyun's face again, and I suddenly had an idea in my heart. "Little girl film, do you know what this place is? You dare to make trouble on Zhu's site, come, bring me in and teach me a lesson." He waved behind him, and several of them immediately followed the big man towards Tang Jingyun. Tang Jingyun didn't get angry but laughed. She was so courageous that these two people turned out to be someone behind her back. What a big tone. Little girl, you are such a big tone. The big guy sneered. Several big guys were ready to do it, and everyone present began to sigh. They felt that the little girl was courageous, but unfortunately there was no wink. Stop! A cold shout came from the stairs, and the people present turned their eyes to the visitor. Many people recognized the visitor with a gasp. The big man felt that the atmosphere was not right. He turned his head and looked at the stairs, with a flattering smile on his fierce face. Brother Xiang, why are you down? You teach a little girl who is making trouble here. Tang Jingyun looked at Chen Zhaoxiang, whose embarrassment flashed by with a smile, and nodded and exclaimed, Brother Xiang. At the banquet just now, she decided on such a name by Zhu Yi. With a Brother Xiang, everyone present seemed to understand something. It turned out that this woman dared to be so bold and was supported by someone more powerful. The big man felt cold behind his back at this moment, and cold sweat came out for an instant, and he said, Brother Xiang, I. Don't look at Chen Zhaoxiang being meek in front of Zhu Yi like a junior, respectful and polite. If this is the case, how could it be possible for the people on the abode to be shocked, and it is impossible for Zhu Yi to value him and train him as heirs. In front of outsiders, Chen Zhaoxiang has always been ruthless, and his imposing manner is frightening. Chen Zhaoxiang didn't even give him alms, and looked at Tang Jingyun apologetically, Miss Tang, I really made you laugh. Lord Zhu asked me to go downstairs and call you. If I'm sober up, I will go up and have some tea. Let's go, Lord Zhu will have a banquet, and it's not easy to drive people away after the meal. There is a certain closeness in his words. People are dependent on fate. After a drink, he feels that this girl has an appetite, without the twitching of a girl, very proud, and a friend to make. Tang Jingyun nodded. Just now a few people chatted for a while and the banquet opened after a few days. The banquet was very rich. It was a 36-course feast when Master Zhu was serving the most solemn guests. She knew that there was one aspect of her own face, Jiang Yi. The origin of his identity is also a major reason. After drinking for a long time, she left the banquet on the excuse of being dizzy, and went downstairs to sober up. In fact, she left a room for Zhu Yi and Jiang Yi to talk. She knew that there must be something between them. It was not easy to show the agreement or the exchange of interests before others, so I left very acquainted. Now Chen Zhaoxiang came down to call someone in person. It is estimated that the exchange between the two has ended, so she should be back on the court again as a middleman. The voice of her and Chen Zhaoxiang's conversation was not deliberately lowered, and the words were not very vague. People who were close to him heard the conversation between them, especially the big man. A chill suddenly appeared in his heart, and he suddenly knew it. This woman who is not in her eyes is actually the distinguished guest of Zhu Ye's banquet. With regret and hatred in his heart, when Chen Zhaoxiang came down to pick up people, it was not their brothers who were watching the scene. It was not long before they took over, that's why they didn't recognize Tang Jingyun's appearance. The two were upset when they saw it, and they would not offend the distinguished guests. And the two brothers of the Wang family, at this moment two battles, looked at Tang Jingyun with horror. Where did the arrogance just come back? Chen Zhaoxiang looked at these people coldly, turned around and asked Tang Jingyun, Miss Tang, what do you think of these people? Tang Jingyun smiled and pointed to the Wang family brothers and said, I told the two of you just now to let them both crawl out. Then, she turned her eyes to the big man who kept wiping cold sweat, and said casually, as for these people, after all, they belong to Master Zhu, so I don't want to intervene more, so let Brother Xiang handle it. Chen Zhaoxiang nodded, not feeling that she was cruel, but admiration flashed in his eyes. His age was not so young, but his methods of dealing with things were not immature at all and organized, no wonder he was favored by Lord Zhu. He nodded to the person in charge of the venue that followed. These two people interrupted their legs and threw them out. They are not allowed to enter our venue again. Those other people should help the rules deal with them. Brother Wang couldn't hold it anymore and sat on the ground, and that big man, his face was pale, and the most difficult thing to do was to help rules. Even if he survived the punishment in the Xingtang, he would not be able to mess around in the future. The person in charge should be a little bit more shocked when looking at Tang Jingyun, wondering what the origins of this woman who made Brother Xiang take seriously, and there are such brutal methods at this age, I am afraid it is not simple. In his heart secretly decided not to offend her. Tang Jingyun smiled at Chen Zhaoxiang and stretched out her hand, Brother Xiang, please. Please. Chen Zhaoxiang smiled at her too. The two brought them upstairs, leaving behind a group of people speculating on Tang Jingyun's identity.